Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So,
Well, I was saying that almost 60% of your labor force is directly and indirectly employed by agriculture. And unless we address agriculture modernization, but it has to be more specific than that. It just can't be muddled with statements of modernization or increasing or making it competitive, etc. Unless we increase incomes in the rural agri sector, increase incomes of our farmers, farming is not sustainable. We will keep the poverty levels as is. There's no inclusive growth, and it will be a threat to our food security. But unless you secure your farmers, you cannot secure your food. I said this before when I oversaw the coconut industry in terms of the Philippine Coconut Authority, which I was chair of. Coconut farmers are the poorest of our
even with the coconut water and
well, that is still in its infancy stage. It's really, the biggest exporter of cocoa water in the country is able to collect anywhere between 300,000 to 1 million liters a month. So if you do the math, at most it's 12 million liters a year, and that's the number one cocoa water producer.
isn't the Philippines the third or the second largest
Third,
exporter?
Brazil and India, the third.
But
But
of copra,
copra were number one.
I am water in
Yes. Cocoa water, I don't think we're third. Fourth ata, Indonesia.
and yet they are the poorest in
Yes.
the country.
I'll show you why. So the number one exporter of cocoa water exports around, let's say, 10 million liters a year. 10 million liters. We have 300 million plus trees. Divided by 5, because 1 liter of cocoa water is equivalent to 5 coconuts. So that's like 15 billion nuts a year. 15 billion nuts. We produce that annually. And divided by 5 will give you 3 billion liters. 3 billion liters of cocoa water a year. But we're only, the biggest exporter is only exporting 10 million liters. So the 2 billion, 900 million liters, because it's primarily copra, is thrown away. It's thrown away. Because when you open the copra and you get the throw away, it all goes to the ground. And a liter of cocoa water is worth $1 landed cost in the year. So we're actually throwing away almost $3 billion of cocoa water because the technology continues to be, scary.
Is this a technology or the farmers don't want to do it?
Well, they have to have the technology. They don't have the skill. They don't have the technology. They don't have the capability, and they need the support. 80% of your coconut farms are monocrop, meaning only coconut. But that's around 3 million hectares. So 3 million hectares, if you put cacao, for example, or coffee under those 3 million hectares, then you can imagine you can become a big coffee exporter. Right now we're importing 2/3 of our coffee requirements. Why is it that we're importing 2/3 of our coffee requirements, yet 80% of our coconut lands are monocrop? But if you do intercropping with coffee, even your coconut harvests
So
will improve.
they can coexist.
Yes,
Coffee and
yes.
and
We did a study, and we're actually implementing it in 35 areas to create value adding for our coconut farming communities. Today, they're earning 50 pesos a a day for copra. That's the norm. That's like 15,000 pesos a year because of copra. But if you include intercropping, you plant coffee under the coconut trees, which you can harvest once a year, or even bananas under the coconut trees. And then if you provide them value adding in terms of producing cocoa water apart from copra or cocoa sugar, from 15,000 pesos a year, a coconut farmer can actually earn around 200,000 a year. So that's more than times 10. Simply because of those interventions and those support. So it's, and then people, you know, the buyers of our copra are complaining, we lack supply.
Kulang pa.
And the reason being is that we also, well, many factors, but you know, if your coconut farmers are, you know, are impoverished, do you think they can produce quality, optimum, outputs? Can they really? They will stay poor and they will, you know, be unable to level up.
There was a report before that part of the problem is that we have very old coconut
Yes.
trees.
But
They're all dying, or most of them are dying.
The situation is 18% of, you know, we have more coconut trees than we have people. We have 320 million coconut trees. 300 plus, 320 million. That's 3 times more coconut.
I mean, they're old and dying now.
18% are senile. 18% senile meaning old.
Aging.
And therefore, mababa na ang harvest. 18% is still a huge number. Round it off to, let's say, 20. Give or take a few million. That's still almost 70 million trees.
But how much of coconut land is being converted into commercial land, which makes it non-arable already?
Well, kasama din yun. That's a challenge, conversion, not only of coconut, of all, you know, rice,
Yes.
sugar, they're being converted. But another problem of your coconut industry, which we've been working on, is half of your 320 million trees, half is nutrient deficient.
Bakit?
Because
Soil?
fertilizer.
Kulang sa fertilizer.
Pataba, well, kulang sa pataba.
Kasi mahal. Kaya ayaw bilhin.
Mataas. Ang halaga, well, if you're only earning 15,000 pesos a year,
Yeah.
diba? Will you have the capacity to fertilize your trees?
Pero you're talking chemical fertilization, not natural.
No, salt. Salt is one of the best fertilizers for coconut. Yes. Your coconut trees near the shore,
Then up kaya
have better yield.
Okay. Kaya
So-
pala municipal beaches meron mga coconut trees.
Yes.
Okay.
So nutrient deficient half. You know, if you provide for 2 years, if you provide the needed fertilizers, the yield of your coconut tree will double in 2 years.
But regardless of age
Well,
of the trees.
Siyempre,
Pag yung diminishing return yan.
no, pero doble pa rin, mababa lang yung yield. I mean, if the average, for example, is 40 nuts, you know, India, they're doing 40 nuts a year. India is doing around almost 100 nuts a year. Because nga, they fertilize, their trees are not old, diba? They do have replanting to bring up, diba, equality. So tayo 40 lang.
I'm going to just interrupt now so that we can give space for people because not everyone may want to address
Sure.
just the agricultural.
Sorry, I'm
okay
very
lang. We'll make
passionate.
one round. We'll make one round and then later we can open up the floor just to give everybody a chance.
Sige.
I think some of them have questions
Yes,
of their
sir.
own. And
agriculture.
sige. One more.
Kasi I attended a NETA briefing last year, and it was presented that most of our sectors are growing, except agriculture. Interestingly, most of the corruption, yung pork barrel na nawala, most of them are supposedly poured out into
Napolis was all bogus agri co-ops and agri.
And the vermiculture.
And then the fertilizers cut was also fertilizers for your farmers.
So what will be your corrective action suggestions now on how to plug the holes of corruption in our agriculture?
Well, I think they're doing the right thing by filing these cases and jailing, those who are involved. I think that should be sustained, and I think you should speed up the process of litigation so that you get the convictions. There's no substitute for punishing the guilty, so that corruption becomes a matter that is squarely addressed. Unless you punish and punish more, they will always be emboldened to try and do some kalokohan because they get away with it. Now, Hong Kong, for example, the ICAC, the anti-crime corruption council.
Very strict.
79% ang kanilang conviction rate. In other words, once they built the case and filed it, 8 out of 10 cases end up in conviction. The opposite is happening sa atin until today. Of the 10 cases filed, 8 end up being dismissed. Well, 2. So you have to up your conviction rates. Apart from that, you have to speed up your court processes. Our court system is so slow. The average case life is 6 years, and that's on first level. I mean, how if you punish after 6 years, if you punish somebody 6 years after the commission of the offense, i-appeal pa din. Diba? So what is happening? Those who think of committing crimes are involved in. Matagal yan. Pwede pang mag-appeal yan. Tapos pagdating pa sa you believe it, then jacuzzi. Diba? So you really need to address punishing the guilty. And we support that. It's ongoing. Unprecedented itong ginagawa ng ombudsman. Ang daming sinususpect, ang daming dinidiscuss. Whether pro or anti-administration, yung governor ng Capiz, na alay ng LP, yung mayor ng Cagayan de Oro na LP, yung governor ng Mindoro na LP. So talagang dapat ganun ang direksyon.
Pero on top of the conviction o sa prosecution, ano yung pwedeng gawin para ma-strengthen ang agriculture?
Well, I think it all begins with seeing the value of our farmers. Unless we give the farmers the respect and the recognition that they have long been deprived of, there will always be the bias against them, and they will not be their issues will be last in the priority. And it's a mindset paradigm shift that we have to do in terms of looking at how we value our farmers. We have no respect for them, very little. Collectively as people, we look down upon them. We even discriminate against them. They even discriminate against themselves. Yung story, pagka mahina yung anak nila sa mat, sabihin, anak, total mahina ka naman sa mat, huwag ka nang mag-college, huwag ka nang mag-aaral, dito ka na lang sa pamilya. Diba? Tapos, the entire country, what do you call somebody who is in the lowest rung of the economic ladder?
Farmer.
No, but there is a derogatory term to that. Diba, we call them hampas lupa. Pag sinabi mong hampas lupa, diba, that is the most pitiful, diba, the most pitiful plight. But what does hampas lupa mean? It means stealing the soil. How come stealing the soil has become so negative and so insulting? Because it's our bias. We have a cultural bias against agriculture and farming, and that has been ingrained because also of our colonial past. Malaysia, I read through their strategy for addressing their agricultural economy. They pointed it out. The colonial structures have to be dismantled because it continues to oppress the farmer. And when they did that, Sabi nila, when colonial rule was removed, the local elite just took over the colonizers and continued the same oppressive.
Parang status quo.
Yeah. And you have middlemen who are raking it in terms of the profits for agriculture, while the farmers remain poor. So that exploitation, that discrimination, actually, Napoleon is a manifestation of how we treat our farmers. Diba? Collectively, we steal from them. Parang we allow this to happen. So sa akin, unless we shift paradigms, and this is all our fault, not just government, this is media, this is our education, we look up to lawyers. How many times do you need a lawyer in your life? Hopefully never. I'm a lawyer. Diba? If you need a lawyer, at least may problema. May kaso ka. Kawawa ka naman. But we look up to lawyers. How many times will you need a doctor in your life? Hopefully also maybe when you're old and sickly. You don't need him every day or her every day. But how many times do you need a partner? Not just every day, 3 times a day. But how come we don't respect them? We don't give them recognition. Diba? We don't give them we deny them the respect they deserve.
So for 1.5 years in your position now at Agri,
we have been advocating it.
What have you done are there programs that you
we were able to have NEDA approve 30 billion pesos worth of irrigation projects during the 1.5 years. Which would mean increase jobs for one.
Because there is short pa daw yung irrigation target.
Oh yeah. Well, the irrigation target is short because half of your irrigated land, irrigable lands have yet to be irrigated. Diba? So talagang when I came in, 50%. But as the strategy precisely is to make sure that the money is spent correctly and goes to programs and projects wherein you can validate and benchmark.
So money approved or irrigation?
Irrigation projects approved. No, approved.
Approved pa lang, hindi pa built.
But they will be built. Some are already beginning to be built. January, meron ng umpisa ng construction. But magbabalon yan because ang average niya in the next 5 years, lalaki ang ating irrigated areas.
So what percent of that does that represent of the total? Would you know?
It's going to our irrigable lands, including irrigated lands, is around 3 million hectares. So 1.5 is irrigated, the other 1.5 remains to be irrigated. So we're doing for that alone. I think it's going to be an additional 200,000 hectares. So mali pa rin.
Meron pang 1.2.
Malaki. Oh, marami pa tayong. But again, why? Why are we not improving our agriculture irrigation? Again, ganun. Because our priorities, sabi ko nga sa niya, we have to, we're not here, what's the point of all these projects, all these irrigation systems that we're building if the farmers' incomes don't increase? So we did, in the agencies that I headed, that I oversaw, we did a retooling and retweaking of our vision. All of the agencies now are benchmarking incomes as the basis for determining whether or not the programs of the agency is successful or not. Because you can pump in a lot of money, but if the farmer's incomes remain the same, what's that money for? He will stop farming, he will sell his land, to a developer, it becomes a subdivision, and then your agricultural lands become less and less, and therefore this is a threat to food security.
You have a question?
Yeah. But the money that was the money is for agriculture then.
Okay. Do you have any questions of your own before we go back to them? Sige.
In UST po kasi, we conducted a survey regarding the 2016 national elections. And kung UST po yung voting population, kaya po yung 8 pick nila for senator. And given that po, how would you extend your reach po to the youth?
Pick. Yeah.
SW survey, your number 4.
Yeah, 3, 4.
3, 4.
Well, actually, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So I'm lower among the youth. Lowly, and they think it's not exciting. Well, it's not. Kasi the bias against, and you can't blame them. Why will I go into farming if I will be poor? Diba? Mag-call center na lang. Mag-engineering.
But are you saying you will be an agriculture senator this time around, or what kind
No.
of senator will you be?
No, I'm saying that has been my advocacy for the last 5 years.
The most recent.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that I should be able to reach out to the young people and tell them my story about how I worked on youth development as a senator and the programs that we put in place, so that they may realize that I may be farming and I may be in agriculture, but we've done our share and continue to look at the youth sector as an important sector. So what have I done for the youth in terms of education, in terms of programs? That's what I will tell them. I founded Tayo. I don't know if you're familiar with Tayo. It's a 10 accomplished youth organization. Every year, around 400 organizations participate in Tayo. And then the award, what you submit is a project that you did in your community or your school. Some of the Tayo winners include Efren
Peña
Florida. Before he became a CNN hero, he was a Tayo award for his project, Cariton Library.
But hindi kita na yan. First time I heard it.
It's known among youth organizations.
What does it stand for again?
10 accomplished youth organizations. Tayo.
So you're looking for youth organizations who are doing
Yes, the reason why we push that is because you do have these awards for individuals.
So
But the truth is, communities will be shaped not by individuals per se, but the organizations that they are effectively able to put in place to effect change. Organizations are more effective in ensuring sustained reforms in a community than just an individual. So we wanted to, kaya nga Tayo instead. In fact, the original was 10 outstanding youth. Kaso, Toyo. This is on its, anong year na ba tayo? 13? 13 years. So so there have been 20 winners, finalists every year, and 10 winners.
Bakit hindi masyado manog?
This week is Tayo Week. In fact, the awarding is on Thursday.
Bakit hindi masyado manog?
Kaya
Hindi namin naririnig eh.
Dapat pa siguro palakasin ng social media.
Walang social media.
especially if it's youth oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I judged for 10 years, every year for 10 years. And then I turned it over to Bam. But Bam has been judging for 30 years because I think he was already a commissioner on the first year. So I said, Bam, it's your turn. And the ideas are talagang doon mo makikita na you'd think they'd run out of entries and projects. Yeah, inexhaustible. The creativity of young people is yun yung inexhaustible resource na talagang now they're a winner was able to provide light, solar powered lighting in several barangays, 100 plus barangays, na change the lives of those who were without light, without electricity. Kasi ngayon nakakapag-aral yung mga bata sa nakakapagtrabaho ng dagdag yung mga nanay kasi added income because dati pagka wala nang ilaw, wala nang magawa.
Those winners get funding.
What do they win there's a prize, diba? 50,000 for their projects. and then they're given a plaque, and then they're awarded in Malacanang. And then we have social network.
It should be as good as TOIM.
Well, TOIM is like
Individual,
50 years,
yeah, yeah.
50 years ahead. I mean, 30 years.
But usually the OIM is already like professionals.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is
Groups.
good
Yeah,
because it's
groups.
youth.
You know, you had a winner. If I recall correctly, they were 40 high school students,
Oh, wow.
and they were doing tutorials for first-year students in math and science. So, ganun, and then they won because they tested all those they tutored, and they had benchmarking. How many passed this year? How many passed when we started training them? The jump. So, ano siya, talagang, meron pa nga yung rescue. Talagang ano sila, volunteer.
Yeah, they're rescue.
Oh, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, they're volunteer firefighters.
Hindi yan yung sa Chinese brigade.
Iba pa yun.
Iba pa yun.
Iba pa yun.
So I think you found a way to connect with the youth through that. That
Yes.
could be a part of your campaign.
That's why I said, if I explain to the young people what we've done, it's really just a matter also of showing my track record and my record of performance, which we will be doing when we campaign. You know, that will be part of our.
Do you have any follow-up questions?
Sir, for you, gano'n po ba important yung involvement ng po? Gano'n po
You know,
yung way?
You know, I without a doubt important. I was student council president of UP when I was in college. I was the first appointed student regent of the University of the Philippines with voting rights, appointed by Cory in 1986. I was the youngest elected city councilor of Quezon City in 1968. So, you know, why? Because I felt young people should be involved in shaping the nation. Historically, when young people come together for the nation, you know, the nation experiences political upheaval. The revolution of 1896, you know, Emilio Jacinto was 16 years old when he wrote the Cartilla. Andres Bonifacio was 29 when he became the head, you know, of the Katipunan. 28. Si Jose Rizal was 27 when he wrote the Noli Me Tangere. And si Emilio Aguinaldo was 29 when he was president of the First Philippine Republic. These are all people under their 30s, very young. But when they got together and decided, students, they studied abroad, came back home. Young people, and it's not unique to the Philippines. The Vietnam War, somebody said, that the Vietnam War was not lost in the fields of Vietnam, the killing fields of Vietnam. It was lost in the campuses and universities in the U.S., across the U.S., because of the student protests. The Tiananmen Square massacre, student-led yan. Di ba? The fall of Suharto in Indonesia in the 90s. Students stormed the parliament and refused to leave. And after they stormed the parliament and refused to leave, there was people power outside, and then Suharto resigned. So when young people get involved, upheavals take place. So you can never discount the critical role of students and young people in shaping our communities and our nation. So if I'm able to explain that to the young people, I think many of the young people will, hopefully in UST, will promote me from number 8.
Sir, last na po, ano po yung lesson ko sa inyo? Tsaka ano po gusto niyo po sa
Plans ko sa youth. Well, I'd like to strengthen, education, provide opportunities for education. We'd like to expand the scholarship programs and the study now, pay later programs. We'd like to improve on that to make sure that anyone who wants to study has access. So these are some of the things that we'd like to ensure, programs that we'd like to support.
So what kind of senator will you be this time around? What will be the factor?
I will be the senator that is needed. I think primarily we will have to address inclusive growth and poverty. So there will always be a bias for agriculture, but education is also critical. Building capacity of our young people is also critical, so that they may be able to get the jobs. There's a disconnect between what we study in school and the degrees that we are able to accomplish and the requirements in the job market. So we will have to make sure that we build the capacity of our young people so that joblessness will be addressed.
Sir, can it be addressed by legislation? Kasi right now, since I am in HR, we recognize the disconnect between what the industry needs and the graduates that we're producing. So what we're doing right now is just to bridge the gap after graduation, meron pang series of trainings just to make our graduates.
No, I think the K-12 program precisely was put in place because we'd like to be skills rather, and also these degree programs. Ang concern kasi nila is hahaba, di ba? Hahaba yung education because and we cannot fault the parents. They want their children working as soon as they can so that they can help contribute in terms of income, di ba? And another 2 years, sabihin ng mga magulang, kailan pa sila makakatulong sa pagtustos ng gastos sa. But I think strategically, mas maaga ka nang matatapos. Pero, ano naman ang trabaho makukuha? Yung dagdag na 2 taon, doon pa lang, pagkalaro na sa technical and vocational, my understanding is, once you've completed that, you don't have to go to college and have a degree, but you will be employed. And you will have the job because of your technical skills.
Diba, on the side lang, sir, diba before we have the technical high school, even without a K-12, I mean,
Yes.
I graduated from a technical high
Yes,
school, so
yes.
third year we are already being taught on how to fix yung mga
Yes,
projects.
yes, yes.
Diba? And then after ng EDSA revolution, all of the technical high school except on Bosco, I think, binago eh.
Yeah, kaya nga.
Kaya wala. Tapos
Yeah.
ngayon binabalik, dinagdagan ng 2 taon ulit.
Yeah. Well, also, we are only one of 2 other countries ata in the world whose primary and secondary level of education is kulang ng 2 taon. Lahat sila 14 na taon. Tayo 12. 11 ata tayo, sila 13. So talagang may incidents na sinasabi ng host country na inferior, kulang. Hindi pa pwede yan. You have to go back and figure out a way how to address the 2-year deficiency. And I'd like to think eventually, if you can, do textbook and be good at it, and no need to go to college, may college degree nga, pero nagtatrabaho sa, sabi ko nga, yung mga nursing, nagtapos ng nursing, pero nasa call center. Ayun, parang, ba't ka nag-aaral ng 4 na taon ng nursing kung call center na lang pala ang nagtatrabaho? Hindi dapat baka dapat 3 taon lang. O 2-year English program, di ba? Na maging proficient in English, trabaho ko na sa call center. sayang yung 2 taon na dinagdag mo nga, doon pa rin pala uuwi. Diba? Mga ganun ba na we really have to streamline it and rationalize it. And that's what K-12 is doing. And there's no easy thing to, there's no shortcuts. It's not easy to implement the K-12, but does this mean therefore we should abolish it? Or we should not amend it and stop it? Let's go through it. Get the kinks out of the way, iron out all these gaps, and then improve on it, and then we're on our way to becoming more competitive and more consistent with standards, global standards.
Yeah.
Senator, yung question na related to agriculture. One of the challenges of agriculture right now is every time may typhoon or every time na may disaster, but one of the first things affected is agriculture in terms of...
I know that because I've been farming for almost 3 years. Grabe.
Yung minsan, will you be, as a senator, will you be championing anything to do with disaster risk reduction in agriculture?
Yes, in fact.
And also, sir, with climate change adaptation for food resiliency. Will you be championing?
We actually did that already when I was food security. We trained our farmers to do drought-resistant varieties, short-term gestation varieties of rice, palay. Kasi pag shorter term, less water is required. So meron talagang ganung mga programa. We also have to look at crop insurance. Very basic. Unfortunately,
Added cost yan, sir. Sa farmer insurance.
well, ako ultimately it pays. Yeah, it's an added cost, but it can be supported by government programs. Kasi ang importante, they have to plant right away. Ma-recover man lang nila yung cost of planting. And of course, we provide them with support in terms of being able to plant right away by way of free seedlings in terms of yung calamity disaster preparedness.
Meron bang crop insurance in the disability?
Meron. But we're doing
But are they being utilized by anybody?
kulang pa. Meron. Pero kulang pa. Very, very small. Mga 500,000 farmers pa lang. Like,
Kasi, whenever there's a storm, you don't hear a farmer saying, we're gonna claim it for insurance and...
meron naman. It actually improved already under the last 5 years. 100% expansion.
Usually sa Maui yun. Sa municipal.
Yeah.
Is it actually working at the in those remote areas in the provinces?
Well, hindi nga.
Parang wala.
Merong areas hindi talaga naabot. Kaya nga we have to expand it.
Sir, the government do that kasi, di ba?
Precisely. It's a government
Parang
program.
Oo nga.
It's a government
And then
program.
push down to the LGU
Yeah.
level. Kasi the LGUs need to be empowered to be able to help out.
At least at the beginning,
Oo, kasi-
government should support. And later on, maybe,
It should come in and support.
Public improve na, saka tanggalin na lang.
In fact, I'll go even further. If you want, the general rule in Philippine farming is subsistence farming. So, strategically, how do you move away from subsistence farming and move towards viable farming enterprise? That's the key. So that you can address poverty, you can address capacity. And it will require affirmative action, for lack of a better term, or hand-holding, in more layman's terms, of anywhere between 2 to 5 years before you transform the farmer from subsistence farming to, he has to graduate. That's the strategy that has to be undertaken by the Department of Agriculture. How do you transform our subsistence farmers, build their capacity, provide them the credit, provide them the training, provide them the access to markets, so that after 5 years of intervention, they will graduate and become farm entrepreneurs.
But what will it take to bring them from point A to B?
Well, you have to have benchmarks. One is income. Their incomes have to increase over time. There has to be a strategy to make them increase income.
Pero that will increase prices of food.
No,
Paano naman kami tayo
No, no.
bumibili ng pagkain?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Di ba imaginary yan?
No, not necessarily. Because income is not only derived from produce. Income is also off-farm income. Agro-ecotourism. Diba? Value adding of their products. Diba? I sell you the let's say, ibebenta ko sa iyo yung siling pang sinigang. Diba? Na sariwa. Pero, I will set aside a portion for pickled sinigang. I can sell 3 months later or 2 months later. May value adding na to. Diba? So, strategically, it will not mean higher prices. In fact, if you build capacity, they will be able to produce more at lower cost. So they were able to sell, more, pero mas mababa yung presyo. Kasi magkakaroon na rin ng kompetisyon, magbabagsakan na ng presyo. Dahil marami na. Now, how do you say, paano yung farmer? Anong kikitain niya? 2/3 of our coffee requirements are not being used. We import 2/3 of our coffee requirements. Our cacao requirements are also not being used. We are importing also another 1 million tons of rice. Pati cacao, chocolate. So, ang dami. We are a net importer of agricultural products. Yeah, and just to give you a sense, $2 billion ang ini-import natin. We export, but net importer tayo.
But that's very sad because ERI is here and a lot of
Yeah.
the people, the countries from where we are importing rice, were actually the ones who studied under us.
That's a common question. Can you explain that to us? We invented ERI, we sort of like,
We
talked of the whole world.
ERI is here. ERI is an international organization for the host country.
Yes,
You're right.
but it's
We
so
taught the world how to
ironic,
do it.
it's so ironic.
How come we're not able to do
And
it?
the other follow-up
I'll go
question.
back to what I said earlier because the paradigm has neglected agriculture and looked down upon it.
Hindi ba ginagamit ng farmers natin yung mga ERI seeds?
Or siguro a better question is, nakakarating ba sa farmers?
Well, okay. Yeah.
Well, hindi.
Hindi.
Part of it, a part of it, in fact, the data is around 60% of your farmers use regular ordinary.
Hindi galing sa ERI.
Not even
Then another
drops.
30%
Hindi na 60%.
use 30 or more than 30% use certified seeds. Certified seeds means your yield will increase by 15 to 20%. But not more than 5% use hybrid seeds. And the hybrid seeds can mean you can double.
When you say hybrid, are these GMO?
No. Iba yung hybrid sa GM. Hybrid
Okay,
actually
yes, I
is from
know.
the same.
Yeah. But sometimes kasi ini-encourage.
No, this is not GM.
Okay.
This is hybrid. So you can actually increase your yields by double with the right farm implements and the right support. Now, question is why? A lot of factors, but primarily communities have to mobilize around farming. I mean, the community has to mobilize around the farmer, build his capacity. For example, why would I go into hybrid seeds when I need more of pataba? I would have to buy this. Saan ko kukunin? Most of our farmers are once a year farmers. I mean, in terms of their produce. Kasi rain-fed. So rain-fed.
Hindi ba twice na?
Pag irrigated, tsaka ka mag-2 times.
Okay.
Pag hindi irrigated, once a year.
Kasi,
So, during the rainy season. So if he's been planting and harvesting only once a year, if he's been doing it for 40 years, he's only done it 40 times. So for you to introduce something new,
Resistance.
okay.
di ba? Why? Unless there are incentives. Ako, I farm full time for a year. May patawag yung barangay. Sabi ko, ba't ako pupunta doon? Ano ba bibigay sa akin? May training daw. Makakauwi ba ako ng seeds mo? O meron bang supportang ibibigay sa akin? Kasi kung wala rin lang, iti-training mo lang ako, tapos iiwanan mo lang ako, hindi ko na lang ako sa farm. Diba? Mas marami pa akong problema kailangan asikasuhin dito. For the farmer to leave his farm and go for training and building capacity, there has to be incentives. Otherwise, ilang beses na may training, wala pa namang resulta. Yung pala, nakita nila, yung fertilizer, hindi na ako.
So it's more on government presence.
No, both government and private sector. We always say government, but the budget of the national government in agriculture, just to give you a sense, what the universe of agriculture economy, the budget of the national government is around 80 billion. You know how much the hog industry is? 200 billion. That's just one industry. You know how much that's hog. Chicken industry is around 180 billion. Chicken and pork lang yun. Hindi pa kasama yung rice. Rice is, I think, $500 million. Ano rin yan? Lahat ito, ang lalaki. The whole agri-economy, karampot lang yung agri-funds sa gobyerno. But, critical ang gobyerno. To be able to provide the inspiration, the infrastructure, the farm-to-market routes, build the infrastructure so that private sector will come in.
Anong meron si Marcos no? Masagana na yung bakit we are able to meet
99 kabansyon per hectare.
so ano yung, can we learn something from what he did?
Ngayon, 300 kabans na yung mga
Oo, hindi. Malaki naman. Hindi na gano'n yan.
Yeah. But
More than that.
But the framework probably that's something that we can
hindi rin sustainable yung ginawa ni Marcos.
so one
He was exporting for 2 years and then after that, in fact, may story pa na tawag dito, in-import para i-export. Parang, but it was not sustainable.
Ang kayo sa Dumangas, yung climate change. Wherein gumawa sila ng climate change
Iloilo.
na mga farming methods na naging successful. At saka I think they won several awards afterwards.
I have not, but I'd like to know.
Kasi this is a community that traditionally sa Dumangas.
It's a rice producing
Rice
community.
producing, fish producing.
They're net exporters
Yeah.
as a province.
And they're also visited by typhoon and so the mayor there, they coordinated the climate change school, which is basically the agromet, tapos meron ng wise planting.
Yeah,
Ano?
yeah.
And nung pumunta kami, they were able actually to make it very profitable for the farmers.
That's right. Kasi even the timing of the planting and the harvesting can be calibrated so that you have optimum use of your water. Yung mga ganung klaseng mga strategies. That's right. Even the ability to monitor the weather, the impact of drought, etc. Where do you bring the water? Marami nang ganun.
So yung bagay, may kaya natin ma-replicate yung Dumangas story to the other, kasi sa ibang
Ultimately, yes. But the strategy really is grassroots. You have to start with the farming communities. For example, in fact, you can do anything, theoretically, but you have to mobilize your stakeholders. I remember visiting a farm in Nueva Ecija. They're not the regular farmers in the sense that they have 3 crops a year. Rice once. Rice kasi is a 3-month, 3-day, 3-week, 3-day crop. And then they have corn, which is 4 months, so that's 7 months. And then they have onions. So 3 crops sila a year. Because in 2008, they entered into a partnership with the local government of San Jose City and Jollibee to buy their onions directly. Wala nang middleman. Supply agreement, but this is Jollibee committing to part of its social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, to buy. But they weren't buying 100%, only 60%. And there's reason there. You give them 100%, pag mas maganda yung presyo doon sa market, iiwanan para.
Yeah.
But that one's made it more flexible for them. They can trade some and then they have a yung buffer. Anytime they do it. Kasi ito pwede.
Anyway,
So-
legislate these changes.
No. Well, legislated by way of funding support, perhaps. Budgetary support for that program. Which is really, well, and that's something I'd like to put in place also. We launched it before called Sagip Sara. It was really mobilizing around farming communities. One of those communities was the farm in Sanchez. From 2008, they were harvesting 60 tons of onions. In 2011, it was 240 tons. By 2015, they were doing 350 tons. Same area, 50 hectares. And, by 2011, meron na lahat ng 50 hectares, and then 30 farming families. Lahat ng pamilya may mausip. Lahat ng pamilya, yung kanilang alahas ng mga misis na tubos na. Kasi yun ang unang sinasala, yung alahas. But, you know how did they do it? Private sector was there, Jollibee. The local government was there. The mayor, the office of the mayor, and then the DA was there. And then microfinance groups were there. Alay sa pinapapasa asked something. They gave microfinance training. And then the around the farming community, around the farmers cooperative, around the farmers community, and then do inclusive business. Ito inclusive business kasi tumaya yung Jollibee. And they say, dati kasi, cooperativism or inclusive business. You can do both, but so far the record is inclusive business is more successful because it's the big brother coming in and saying, I will support you and provide you the necessary market and the training. So they graduated. And I asked them, in 2008 when we started, what was your biggest problem? I thought they'd say money, equipment. You know what they said? Akala namin di namin kaya. Because for the longest time, it has always been defeat. Di ba? They've always been, in fact, sabi nila, bakit kami magtatanim? Eh, mabubulukan lang kami.
Cycle.
Di ba?
Cycle.
Oo, nabubulok na. Nung nagtanim kami ng marami, nabulukin kami. But because of that supply agreement, it became the collateral for them to borrow money. And when they borrowed money, they were able to rent cold storage facility. And so when they knew they had a cold storage facility, hindi sila mabubulukan, nagtanim pa sila ng mas marami. And then they came to me asking for a refrigerated fund in 2011. Sabi po, okay ito ah. Yung ibang farmer ang hinihingi. Fertilizer. Di ba? Ito refrigerated fund na. Because it turns out, 17,000 pesos per trip yung biyahe nila from their farm to the cold storage facility in Pampanga. Nilaan sa kanila. So, ganun yung suporta. Yung market, the access to the market was given by Jollibee. The access to equipment, technology was provided for by DA. The building of the capacity was given by the private sector. Kasama pa pala yung yung USAID organization, Catholic Relief Services.
So this is what you're saying, what you meant by mobilization.
Yes.
Putting things together.
Yes.
To help the farm.
Yes. We called it, when I was in the Senate, Sagip Sara. In the PCA, we identified 35 farming communities and then mobilized the private sector and the LGUs so that we can build capacity of the home.
So that will be primarily your advocacy now as soon as you get elected.
For the agriculture sector, yes. Talagang, how do you transform our farmers from subsistence farming, give them the capacity so that it becomes farm enterprise development?
But
Ganun.
what about the farm to market roads? Because that is also another issue where, how do we get them to transport it and still not raise prices tremendously? Because of the absence of the farm to
Yeah,
market
that's right.
roads.
The Aquino admin is famous for being poor at infrastructure.
Yeah, because infra has always
No, but
been a problem.
we
even
were
up to
able
now.
to produce most number of farm to market roads in a given period. 15,000, kulang pa, but 15,000 kilometers. When the Aquino, totoo yun, medyo I can't blame them in a sense. Nagsikip nung first year. Kaya medyo nagbantay. But, when Aquino came into government, the budget for infrastructure was 90 billion. Today, it's 750 billion for 2016. Because nga, of the prioritization and then the increase in the income of government, we now are, when we started, the budget was 1.2 trillion. When we started in 2010, today it's 3 trillion.
Yeah, but the problem with that is it's a budget, but the budget is not always released on time.
Well, it's a challenge, that's right.
Because that's what happened eh. A budget.
Alam mo, ang hirap sa totoo lang, it's so easy, it appears easy, but when you look at it, pag nag-release ka, tinitira. Pag di ka nag-release, tinitira. Di ba? I mean, the bureaucracy, no, governance is not easy. Di ba? And that's why, initially, I didn't want to run anymore. One of the main reasons why I decided I might as well run is because I said, what about the programs that I started? And then when they polled in June of 2015, I polled number 1. That was the time that I was thinking that ako ba?
So, which leads us to the question, what is your position on the SSS pension?
Well, I support what the president did, but the context there is, he has also called on government, Congress, to find a win-win solution.
Kasi sabi na ng opposition, kasalanan doon ni Aquino eh.
Siyempre, lahat naman kasalanan niya Aquino eh. Di ba? I mean,
Or kasalanan ni Rojas, I think one of those.
Well, ang sa akin, you can fault Rojas and Aquino for many things. You cannot fault them for, doing what they felt was best to address the country's
So
problems.
you agree with the veto?
But the context of the veto is, he wants a win-win. He wants Congress, and challenging Congress. Let's find a solution to this.
So that's the mandate now, to look for a way.
Yes, and there is still time.
To look for a way to eventually
Yes.
hike the pension.
Ang dali-daling gawin ni Presidente, may kandidato ko, kailangan namin manalo, kaya dapat ipasa ito. Di ba? Tapos titirahin siya ng mumulitika. Okay? Ako, kaliwat kanan ng babatikusin sa'yo. Gawin na lang kung ano yung palagay mo tama. Babatikusin ka rin naman eh. You will be hit. Whether you do or you don't. Might as well be hit doing what I believe is the right thing. And I think he did the right thing. It's so easy to, go that route. 2 million. Ang kandidato ko, matadali dito. Politika na ito. Eleksyon na ito. Sige, bigay natin. Tapos bahala na ang susunod na administrasyon. Maghanap ng solusyon. Pogi ako, pero mali in terms of compromising. And who has said it's, even former SSS has said, but binabati ko siya kasi bonus siya. Sa akin, he did what he believed was right. But, that's why it has to be contextualized. Kasi ang dali-dali sabihin, binito. Yes, he did. But he was also calling for a solution. Let us find a solution, a middle ground. In fact, I'm told, if it were anywhere between 500 to 1,000, baka naipasapay. Meron kasing pinili na gawin 2,000. Naiintindihan ko yung sitwasyon ng ating mga senior citizens and retirees. But it would have been
But the one thing that has been on my mind, and forgive me for asking the question, I hope, is why, even with the Department of Agriculture, why did the President feel that there was a need to appoint you for food security? And President, knowing that there's only like 1.5 years before the end of the term.
Let me ask another question. Why did you not just fire Alcala?
Yeah, why was there a need to...
Well,
with the Secretary of Agriculture, why was there a need...
elected to him.
Hindi kasi, alam mo,
No,
most of...
because you accepted, so I'm just wondering...
Most of the pundits said, hindi lang niya ma-fire sa Alcala. Kaya ako lang nilagay doon para lang magkaroon ng semblance of doing it right.
Hindi naman. Ako, I was there to help.
Yeah, did that mean that the Secretary of Agriculture was not doing his job? That somebody else...
To separate fisheries as a separate department.
So you're going to have
Masyadong
a Department of Fisheries.
Masyadong malawak. Ang Departamento ng Agrikultura, masyadong malawak. So, sa akin, here was a chance, we needed to catch up, di ba? In terms of inclusive growth, we needed to put in place the necessary di ba, reforms in the irrigation kasi he was unhappy with irrigation. In NFA, there were problems with smuggling. In PCA, yung Cocolisab. So, I just came on board to help. Sabi nga ni Sec Posi, mas mainam yung 2 kalabaw ang nag-aararo kaysa sa isa.
So,
Mas
nag-navigate kayo ng mga in-navigation sa yung problem.
Yeah.
Pwede solution.
Yeah. So, nagtulungan kami. And I think it helped. We were able to bring down the prices of rice when I came in. Immediately...
That was your work?
Well, it was our intervention in the making rice available, checking on the warehouses, make sure that nobody's hoarding or diverting. We filed cases against erring traders.
So what?
And then we put in place a more transparent importation of rice that brought down the prices of rice imports.
So yung sabihin nyo is Department of Fisheries. Will this help solve yung mga gray areas ng pag-regulate ng water resources natin? For example, sa LDA.
Hindi sa fisheries yun.
Pero yung kasi may aquaculture pa doon.
Yes. They have to be able to coordinate because water resource management, maraming ahensya yan. LDA, DA, DNR,
Yung Bureau of Protected Areas.
pati yung MWSS. I think that requires a separate legislative act to come up with a more rationalized approach to our water resources.
But you're still hell-bent on the fisheries.
The fisheries, because, we have, our national territory is 4/5 water and 1/5 land. But our budgetary allocation is 90% land and only 10% water. Diba? So talagang we need to, in fact, in other countries, Canada, Australia, fisheries is really separate. It's a whole different set of challenges. Seaweed, prawns, tilapia, bangus.
Ano mas malaki in terms of families or population? In the fisheries or the farms? Do you know?
Well, the poor, marami ang fisher po. The poorest, in fact, among all. That's why it has to be also. And fish is supposed to be our cheapest source of protein. But, we're not managing our, that resource as effectively. We are, there is still a lot. Very resilient din ang aquamarine, and then we're the we're the center of the center. Diba? In terms of aquamarine biodiversity, ours is the most diverse aquamarine ecosystem in the entire planet, in the entire universe. Wouldn't be able to tell it, but at least in the entire planet. The coral triangle, they call it, is Philippines, Indonesia, and Papua New Guinea. Okay. That's where the most diverse aquamarine life is located per area, diba?
So we are yet to exploit that?
Wait, I'll finish my note. That's the triangle. But you know what the this is the center. But you know what the center of the center is? Verde Island, across, where it's the most densely populated area of aquamarine in the entire planet. So we are actually the center of the center. So that is But that, that tells you that our aquamarine resource is, we can actually be the aquamarine resource powerhouse of the world.
So what's happened to that bill?
Well, there was a bill filed before. It was not able to move forward, but I want to file it now again.
Given this condition.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're also anti-mining, especially in areas that would affect ecosystems?
Well, mining is something that we need, but you're right. It has to be. We have to choose and ensure that it is in areas wherein, for example, in agricultural lands, dapat iwasan. We don't want to lose more of our agricultural lands. We're already 104 million Filipinos. Our requirements for agriculture are growing, but the land is not growing. In fact, it's finite. So what happens? How do you now make sure that your agricultural arable lands do not decrease, thereby threatening your source of food? So I think mining is necessary, but it should be strictly regulated so that it does not compromise our ability to secure our land.
Sir, online question. It's about, I think you authored this bill, this law, RA 9344.
Yes.
And it seems, according to our reader and listener, mukhang hindi na effective yung sa juvenile because most of our offenders right now are mga katulad ng isang news yung 13-year-olds sinaksak babae.
Yes. Well, we amended the law. The law was passed in 2006, and then in 2013, before I stepped down, it was amended to strengthen it. Those involved in serious offenses are not to be released. In fact, they have the law as amended requires that they be confined involuntarily for a period not less than 1 year. And during that involuntary confinement, those involved in serious offenses will have to go through an aggressive rehabilitation and diversion program. They're saying that young people are taking advantage of the law. It's parang mali kasi sinasabi nila ginagamit ng mga sindikato. Diba? Ba't di habulin yung sindikato? May mga batang hamog. The data that we've received from the PNP is that these children in conflict with the law are actually ang handler niyan adult, whether it's a corrupt barangay official or coddled by a corrupt policeman. I've asked this in a forum. Who here believes that a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, or a 15-year-old can be the mastermind of a syndicate and has sway over policemen and barangay officials? Raise your hand. Lahat yan, nung mga involved sa sindikato, may mastermind. Ang tanong ko sa pulis, ang kaya lang ba nila yung bata? Kaya nilang banggain yung bata. Pero yung mastermind, hindi nila kaya. Tapos pag binangga nila yung bata, anong gagawin ng mastermind? Napakaraming bata sa kanila. Maghahanap lang ng iba pang bata para gamitin at abusuhin. At bakit hindi banggain yung mga sindikato? Kasi sinasabi, ginagamit ng mga sindikato para makaano ng krimen. Kaya laganap ang krimen. Therefore, dahil ginagamit ng sindikato, kailangan kulungin yung mga bata. Ba't di habulin yung sindikato? Unless kasabot sila. Diba? I don't want to, diba? I don't have, diba? I don't want to think na sila'y kasabot.
Pero sir, yung bang ating DSWD is may capacity pa sila or equipped to really...
Well, it's like saying, the court system is slow. So let's abolish the courts. No. The court system is slow. So let's modernize the courts and provide the necessary support so that the court systems become modernized. Diba? It's like saying, the law is not being implemented effectively, therefore let's abolish it. No, I'd like to think the law, for it to be effectively implemented, let's provide the necessary support. And when we amended the law, we allocated an additional 400 million for rehab centers. And, before the law was amended, and before funding came in, at the time of President Aquino, in 2010, when we came in, there were only 7 employees, regular employees, of the Juvenile Justice Welfare Council. Hindi talaga pinondo. Their budget in 2010 was 11 million. Today they have 60 people and their budget is around 100 million. So that's, there was a time, definitely, that it was not funded properly and therefore gaps in its full implementation. But we are slowly putting that together. But the other side of the coin is, how many of these young people who otherwise would have been rotting now in the New Bilibid prison had a chance, second chance? There is a story about one who was implicated in a robbery. Now he, because of the law, nilabas siya, nilagay siya sa bahay pag-asa sa Marikina, and is now a supervisor level in a gasoline station. If that law was not passed, he'd be in New Bilibid prison in Muntinlupa. How many yung ganun? Totoo, merong mga nag-aabuso, and we should go all out against this taking advantage of the law. In fact, we amended the law, and the law now punishes those who parang doble ang parusa dun sa mga taking advantage of these young people. May parusa ganyan. So let's go after them. You go after the young children, put them behind bars, 15, 14, masaya ka na. Kaya yung sindikato gumamit sa kanya. Ano nangyari nun? Diba? Iba usapan niya. Iba usapan ba yun? Di kukuha na naman siya ng iba pang abusuing bata. Then it's a vicious cycle. You just keep putting all the children in jail because they're the most vulnerable. Inabuso na nga. Di ba?
It's the easiest to catch.
And the easiest to catch.
But that's also the same with the drug syndicates. They keep
Precisely.
going after the drug pushers,
Yeah.
but not really the
Yes.
drug suppliers.
Because, teka muna, itong usapan niya, di ba? Seryoso na yan, di ba? That's serious crime fighting. Di ba? But shouldn't it be? Di ba? So in other words, we're not serious about crime fighting. We're just, parang, lang, pakita lang ito. Di ba? Tokenism lang ito. Ayan, nakulong namin yung bata.
Or drug users put in
Oh,
jail,
diba?
pero yung...
So why should people vote you as a senator?
Well, for one, I think my track record in terms of 12 years, wala kayong nakita ng corruption. Two, I've been able to serve in the cabinet. I had the experience. We were able to help bring down the prices of rice. We were able to bring down the prices of imported rice and save 7 billion pesos in a year's time, a year and a half. For the first time in the history of the NFA, when I oversaw the process of procurement, we rejected bids. In the 43-year history of NFA, no bids to buy rice, imported rice, were ever rejected. Yes.
But the question is, how come we are still importing a lot of rice? Why are we still not rice sufficient on our own?
Well, I said, I touched on it earlier, until you secure your farmer, you won't be able to get maximum optimal output and productivity. And the farmer has really been taken advantage of and not being given the right support. You support the farmer, make him productive, build his capacity, give him obviously, there was some miscalculation. At inamin naman ni Secretary Poso, sinabi niya, at humingi rin siya ng paumanhin na hindi nila na-meet yung targets. So meron talagang kakulangan. I'd like to think rice sufficiency is something that we can achieve, but we cannot, but at a certain pace, and it should not be at the cost of other also equally important products, agricultural products. You'd like to strengthen your coffee farmers, provide support for your coconut farmers. There is, of course, a premium in rice kasi staple yan. Pero yun nga lang. For example, the numbers, 60% are still using ordinary seeds. So let's build capacity and improve the numbers. We should start for the next administration. Let's get the numbers in place, and then let's target. By the end of 6 years, we want to increase certified seed usage by another 10, 15, 20%. 2/3 of your coffee is being imported. By the end of 6 years, we should be able to slash this in half, and make coffee production, locally produced coffee, something that we can provide additional jobs for our farmers locally instead of buying it abroad. We are still 99.8%, I think, importing our daily requirements. So why don't we bring it down to 70% by the end of 6 years? In other words, 25% of your dairy should be locally produced. You don't have to do 100% sufficiency in that respect, because milk is not an easy commodity to produce. But if you bring it down to to 70% or 75%, then you're also providing support. That 25% goes to our local farmers. Then you create more income for our farmers. So
the national agricultural plan.
Yes.
The national agricultural plan. So can we send it that's something with the executive?
It's with the executive and the legislative, because we will be funding the program. So immediately, dapat, which we did last in 2010, we put in place, within 6 months from the administration of the President, the Agriculture and Fisheries Summit, yung AF 2025. We did visioning. All the big players, all the stakeholders, farmers cooperatives, farmers groups, together with industry, fertilizer. We sat down for 2 days and discussed our vision for agriculture in 2025. And that vision is still relevant today. But ultimately, it's really securing your farmers, providing the necessary mechanisms and support so that we transform our farming communities from subsistence farming into farm enterprise.
So if I were just to ask, if you were elected senator again, what would be some of the top bills that you would immediately want to offer?
Well, I'd like to strengthen the Agriculture Training Institute. This is the one that provides capacity for our farmers so that they become more. There is an ATI. I'd like to bring it down to the provincial level. Right now, it's only up to the regional level. I think until the provinces dapat meron na, so that they have direct access, extension service, support from the national level. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. Maikli lang ang ating farming experience, pero talagang ang farmer, parang bayawak yan na hihilahin mo sa lungga para lang pumunta sa pabrik. Kasi nasa farm siya. But that's why extension service is doing that. So that you go to the farms. You know, the agriculture department today, 70%, in the next, I think 5 years, 70% will be retired. Talaga. Oo. Kasi nga, matatanda na. So, hindi na kayang pumunta sa bukid, di ba? Uugod-ugod na. No? So, something like that has to be, you know, we have to address.
So when you say
address that.
strengthen the Agricultural Training Institute, what exactly do you mean by that?
Extension service.
So in other words, it's like
The latest in farming
it's like
techniques.
satellite training centers that will go into remote areas to farmers.
Bring
the training to them.
Yes, bring the training and support services to them directly in their communities. Extension services is used to be national. Nung nagkaroon ng local government code, pinigay sa lokal. Ang problema lang sa lokal, every 3 years. Who's now thinking, alam mo, magtanim ka lang ng kape, after 3 years yung mag-aani. Eh, paano yun? Kung 3 years lang yung vision ng local government. How can you think 3 years? Eh, yung long variety, 7 taon yan bago bumunga. Eh, sino mag-iisip ng 7 taon? Diba? So your agriculture training institute should be the one that provides the long-term strategic building of capacity. Of course, local governments have a critical role in providing the necessary support also. So it's going to be two-pronged. You have the national government providing these services in partnership with the local government so that the building of the capacity is sustained.
Ang problema lang yan, from a marketing standpoint, hindi yan sexy. You will not get votes by that. If you tell people that's the first thing you're gonna do, you're not gonna get votes as much. Kasi, una-una, agree. Second thing, it's not exciting.
But for me, that's the problem. So, I mean, you want to solve the problem. You don't run in the Senate just to win. You run. Of course, you need to win, and after winning, how do you solve the country's problems? I think that's one of those problems that needs solved. I'd like to think also that my track record in the Senate and my performance in the agencies that I had, if people are made to know that, I think I will still get the vote.
But do you think you've gone past the noted popularity that you got?
I think so, because that one was 2004. I ran in 2007 and I was elected as an independent. So I think the people saw that.
There are bills that people like us have wanted passed, but it never got to that stage. And one of them is the FOI.
Oh,
And
I voted for the FOI.
Yeah, number 2
It was
is
passed on third reading in the Senate in 2000 when I was still in 2009.
So you're for the FOI.
So you're for the FOI. How about the anti-political dynasty bill?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor. It is a constitutional provision that has to be enacted into law. I support it.
What about this one came from one of our colleagues who is pushing for a department of ICT, the ICT, and he wants to ask you what is your vision regarding the Philippine ICT framework and what would be.
I think access to information communication technology is critical. I think every citizen must be able to have access to this. It is important in terms of the overall well-being and building of capacity of our citizens.
So you would,
staying connected.
So you would strongly support, let's say, the creation, because right now we're pushing for the ICT, which would be like an umbrella overall. Because right now the ICT is not really properly handled. It's only the NPC.
Well, I think we have to. I am open. I'd like to see the department, the provisions of the department first. In the bill.
Can you assure us you'll at least try to take a look at it?
Of course.
If you get elected, there's there's a group of people who are dedicated, who we know,
Yes.
dedicated to this, and they will definitely give you the information.
They have been pushing for better internet.
They've been looking
and
for-
we're a social media capital, and the only reason why it shows up that we spend so much time on the internet is really not because we're that savvy, but because the internet is so
It's slow. That's right. You know,
So,
I was just consulting an IT expert. And it turns out the gateway to the Philippines, which connects us by underwater to the rest of the world in terms of the internet, there are only 2 players.
Yeah.
So that in itself, we should open it up. We should allow more players to come in, di ba? And provide, a healthier atmosphere or setting of competition. Para mapababa natin yung, di ba, mag-compete sila sa services. Di ba? If there's one who can provide faster service, obviously they're not going to be, how do you call it, hard-pressed to deliver to. And ngayon, kung dalawa lang, di ba, medyo, duopoly ayun, mabagal.
Sir, 2 more questions online. The first
and
one
then
is,
after that, we will go back to our students.
the first one is yung sample sa constitutional amendments. And the second question is, how do you speed up lawmaking?
Well, sa constitutional amendments, there were some provisions of the Constitution which I believe should be revisited.
Like,
Yung certain provisions on economy, but I don't believe yung land ownership. I think land ownership should stay in Filipinos.
Foreign ownership, 60-40.
Depends on what industry. I'm willing to look at maybe.
Not all industries.
Yes, not all industries. Depends on what industry. Perhaps telecommunications one.
It's okay or it's not okay?
No, it's okay to open it up. But there are certain industries that should limit. So I'm open to, but I'd like to see it through either, I'm still, but CONCON would be something, but a time-bound CONCON. Ang ibig sabihin kasi ng time-bound CONCON. And that's why the argument is, mas mabuti na lang sa CONAS, meaning yung Kongreso mismo ang gagawa, as they would make the law, rather than a CONCON which may take forever. So if it's a time-bound CONCON, kasi we also cannot have uncertainty for long. Diba? We cannot debate for 6 months or 9 months and everything is on hold. That's going to make our competitors laugh and rejoice. Look at the Philippines. Everything is, kumbaga sa negosyo under renovation, di ba? So wala, di ba? Things will slow down. So you can't have something that is uncertain for more than 6 months. I'd like to think. After 6 months, dapat tapos na. Let's debate, but let's debate. We can't debate until kingdom. Maiiwanan tayo. Our competitiveness will suffer. The other thing that I'd like to, I guess this is probably not legislation, but the Filipino, my sense is political, as a political observer, the Filipino has this tendency to be insular. We look inward, and they say that's part of the culture of islanders. But we're not connected with everybody else. We're so into ourselves, which isn't good in terms of if we want to be competitive, if we want to know what the rest of the world is doing, so that we can do it. But the trouble, and I've noticed this, is that we seem to think that that the world revolves around us. Kasi detached tayo which obviously isn't the case. Unlike, for example, Malaysia and Singapore are always watching each other because historically they have had strange compete. China and Japan, US, they're all looking out in terms of what their competitor is doing. Philippines is, may ginagawa ba sila? Okay. Parang, diba, we're not concerned about what Vietnam is doing, what
So we're not competitive enough, so to say.
well,
Or
we are too insular.
Are we really?
I think so. I think we are insular. We have to, I mean, relative to how Malaysia looks at Singapore or how Indonesia looks at Malaysia, di ba yun? Or Thailand and Vietnam and Cambodia looking at each other. Kasi magkatabi lang sila eh. Diba? Merong ganong class natin, parang, if it happens, thank you. If it doesn't happen, thank you.
Okay na.
Diba? And you know, Thailand is doing $18 billion worth of agricultural exports, almost $20 billion. We're doing net exporters there. Tayo net importer of $2 billion. That should be a cause for concern for us. But so what? Parang okay lang. Para Thailand's doing that? Oh, sure. Vietnam is around 6 billion, 7 billion net exporter. Vietnam is doing that, and we're doing negative $2 billion. So we have to move away from that being insular and start looking at the world in the context of how do we compete on this competitive environment. In fact, the other fault I think is, we're hospitable to a fault. And these are some of the,
Yeah.
For example, ito, and I think, we have, and this is in the context of us, we must highlight what we have.
But are we talking about BTEC?
What we have to offer. For example, I remember this a long time ago, 10 years ago. May mga, ito na lang, yung pagdating mo ng Amerika, or whoever has experienced that, mga kababayan natin, gusto mo pagluto kita ng adobo. Galing na akong Pilipinas, araw-araw kung nag-adobo. Kasi, parang, baka isipin ko, parang gusto mo na adobo. Meron nga, galing naman ako ng Maynila, pagka ako ng Taberde ako. Ang restaurant na pagkakainan namin, on top of the ocean, ang restaurant on streets. Wow! Siguro, alimango, diba, sugpo, diba, lobster siguro. Ang dating ko doon. Lengua, chicken, diba, pansit. Nasaan yung
Nasa dagat. Kasi galing sa dagat.
ang sabi, ito, ini-imagine ko na yung ano nila, di ba? Ay, si Senator, sanay sa pagkain Maynila yan. Kaya yun ang ibigay natin. So parang, to a fault, we want to be hospitable, parang kinahihiya naman natin yung sa atin. Ba't natin ipagyaman yung sa atin, di ba? We should be proud of what we have. Kaya nga, I never knew until I became, in the cabinet, 330 million coconut trees per year.
Now, sir, that is unique. I have not heard a national leader speak the way he spoke on that issue, on that topic.
Yeah.
It's not been said by anyone.
Well,
I think you should let people know about it. It's a good point, actually.
well, it's my,
Well, it's your own view. I think
it's some of my insights in my desire, to understand the problems of the country and find, action points to try and help. Diba? For example,
that is unique.
meron isang, galing daw China, mga guests namin, galing China. Doon natin dalhin sa Gloria Maris. Sa Gloria Maris. Paspasan natin yung Chinese food sa... Dalhin natin po sa Filipino food, di ba? Parang, bakit nga ba sa Chinese food mo nadalhin yung Chinese? problema yung pagkain. I guess, we're thinking of them. We're not thinking of, what we have to offer. And I realize that, for example, our mangoes are the tastiest. But it's not a given that when we have foreign guests that we should serve them mangoes. It's not. It's taken for granted. You tell me, when we have guests who come from abroad, is it top of mind? They have to taste Filipino. Because I'm so proud of Philippine mangoes. It's the sweetest mango in the world. I want to make sure that they know this, because when they go home to they'll be telling these stories, and this is something. Why don't we do that? Maybe we're a bit, parang hindi natin parang pinagmamalaki ang ating mga produkto. Also, parang why? We don't have to prove ourselves. We don't have to show anybody that we're good. Parang it doesn't matter whether you enjoy your stay here or not. As
Time
much
check.
as... Sorry.
Time check lang. We were told 15 minutes.
Sure.
Can
Sorry.
we just give way to our students? And
Sure,
then,
sure.
Yeah.
But it's parang...
Sir, last na po. Kanina po sinabi niyo po that you want to build the capacity of young people. Paanong paraan po?
When I was in my first term, I became chairman of the education committee in the Senate, and we were able to pass measures that upgraded our state colleges so that they will become state universities. But critical in areas where there are lacking. So build capacity of your state universities and provide the necessary support so that our young people get quality education. So we will continue to push for that. I'd like to see young people also going to farming. But the only reason they will go to farming is if farming is profitable or it gives them good income. So, dapat bottom line. I'd like to come up with a program wherein young people will go into farming. But it's because it is a viable farm enterprise that doon sa distrito ni Secretary Cruz, because nagkaroon ng Bagsakan Center, tumaas ang kita ng mga farmer, marami gustong mag-farming, mag-agriculture. But the rest of the country, kinakailangan din natin habulin. Why would they go into farming and agriculture kung hindi naman sila magiging mahirap din lang sila? So I'd like to support a program wherein, kasi if a new generation of Filipinos don't want to farm anymore, that's really a serious challenge. The average age of the farmer today is around 56 years old.
Yeah.
They don't want to...
Children kasi don't want to go to
Yeah, why would we go
But
to...
the question is maybe because they think of farming as having to toil in a
Yes,
field and all
yes.
that. Why can
Vow
we not?
of poverty.
Yes, but why can we not also push for what is called nowadays as backyard farming, city farming? I mean,
I started...
It could be small scale, but you can do things like, for example, herbs will grow even in a
I started with backyard farming.
Rooftop farming or
yung front yard kasi, yung front empty lot kasi yung harap namin ng farming. So after going through all these visits of farmers, I said, I want to also do the science behind it. So we got 100 square meters of empty lot, divided into 25 square meters each. And then I planted tomato in 25, I planted siling pang-siligang in another 25, I planted corn in another 25. And then I made the necessary computations. If I get X number of kilos in 1 square meter, or 25 square meters, so times 4 times 10 is 1,000 square meters. Union row. So I did that. I started with small, and then I graduated into actual
But probably that
running a
should
farm.
be encouraged in our youth now. Kasi I remember, a lot of the youth now, they're focused now on technology. Pero before, when I grew up, sa likod ng aming eskwelahan,
Yes.
may garden eh.
That's right. In fact, merong programa na gusto rin natin itulak. Itong And tayo winner din yun eh. Young people propagated herbs, medicinal herbs, in every backyard in one barangay. This is for cough, for sore throat, for allergies, yung mga tawa-tawa, yung mga oregano, yung lagundi, porbo.
Pito-pito.
That is something that should be
But we should
supported.
encourage that because
But ultimately, I will go back to the problem. Farming is equated with poverty. Which we have to change. But the good news is people are fast becoming more conscious about what they eat. They're now concerned about cancer. They're concerned about, all these chemicals in their, in their products. So that should be an opening for us to be able to bring precisely a better thinking, better awareness of our citizens in terms of agriculture and in terms of being able to produce quality agricultural products.
So I think, are there any last words? We're still on Periscope. Is there any last words for?
Well, I'm
in terms of.
I said this before. The country has a lot of problems, and but I'd like to look at it in the sense that there are also a lot of solutions. It's easy to complain. That's the easiest thing to do. Pinakamadali yung magreklamo. Or to finger point. Ang dali yun eh. But the challenge really is how do we together find solutions and effective solutions. Government is just one vehicle. But government alone cannot solve the country's problems. Citizens who are complaining, that's part of our democracy. And we respect contrary views, kasama yan. But we'd like to think also that apart, while complaining is necessary, criticizing is necessary, it's important, maybe we should also contribute towards what can we actually do concretely to shape the nation and solve the country's problems. And I'd like to say it again, government cannot do it alone. We need the support of young people, we need the commitment of stakeholders. The other thing that's very easy for us is to be disunited. That's in our nature. In fact, geographically, we are disunited. We're fragmented. Di ba? Pinakamadali ang magreklamo, pinakamadali rin ang pagkawatak-watak. But, we have to start doing the difficult things. How do we come together? How do we unite? How do we solve the country's problems? What do we do and contribute towards moving the country forward? We are moving forward. Some of us want to move forward faster, and that's understandable. So how do we do that? The less of us who are not concerned, more of us I think the change will happen much quicker. So the challenge really is how do we come together with a common vision of self-solving, contributing towards moving our nation towards the right direction. We get the government elected officials that we deserve. So this is really a challenge for us all. We be critical, we be mindful, we choose properly. And finally, the last word is a people committed to change. No well-entrenched politician can stand this way. And I remember when I ran the independent campaign in 2007. I didn't know whether I would win or lose because I was going so well. I remember this because I cried later on when I was delivering my speech. It was in Pampanga. in a resettlement area in Mabalacan. I was thinking before that, did I do the right thing? I did not join the administration. I did not join the opposition. I went so. And then this guy in basketball uniform, parang sleeveless, shorts, during the motorcade, he came up to me. He grabbed my hand and he said, "Sama mo ito, Kiko." Ayaw mag-motorcade. Hindi. At that time, sabi ko, baka anting-anting ito. Sabi ko, kailangan ko na, sabi ko, sa hirap nitong pinasukan ko, I will need kahit anting-anting tatanggapin ko. But when I opened my palm, mamaya, it was 100 pesos. He was in a resettlement area. He was, he could have bought his, for food that day, but he gave it to me. Then he said, "Isama mo." Then I said, ito tumataya. And I said, we did the right thing. Because now, tumataya ang taong bayan. Pag ang taong bayan na mismo tumataya, walang anumang hadlang na makakita. Hindi niya pagkakasa. So that's what we have done.
So with that, we come to an end. Secretary, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Maybe
Thank
just
you.
one last word on behalf of Block Watch and our Juan Road community. We want to wish you the best of luck for the elections. If you may call it, isang hiling lang namin is if in case you do become senator, na sana you keep your office open.
Of course.
That you will open your mind to any constructive criticism because that's what we netizens are there for. We always want to engage government because top of mind for us is we want social change for good. And sana kayo po ang isa dun sa mga magbibigay sa amin ng opportunity to be able to engage with you.
I think my record has been that I have always asked stakeholders to be active and involved. We did that when we passed many of the measures that we were able to pass. Citizens must participate, must get involved. And I welcome that in my second term. Get our citizens. In fact, my first run, my slogan was "Kumilos kasama si Kiko" in 2001. After that, we organized Tayo. And then we were the first senator to fund Gawad Kalinga funding for the homes.
What is your slogan now?
Wala pa, we're still finalizing it.
Wala pa kayong ads?
Wala pa, wala pang budget. But we will have the ads in time, but we're still finalizing it. But it's still in the, citizens getting involved, participating in the shaping of our communities.
Pero ba sir, based on your sharing right now, you will be better off in an administrative job rather than legislative.
I was gonna say that.
Kaya lang,
Because you have become so well versed. I mean,
Well, it will help me in my Senate. It will improve my capacity as a senator because hindi na tayo pwedeng paiutang. Diba, alam na natin yung patakbo ng mga ahensya. So we will still be effective this time in crafting the laws and oversight. It's not just lawmaking. We want to make sure that the budget and the funds that have been allocated are spent correctly. So we will make sure, I think our oversight will be even more effective because of our experience.
Okay, we'll count on that. Okay, thank you so much.
Salamat.
Thank you. Can we have a group picture?
Sure.
Okay lang. Okay.